Time to get this panel popping. How y'all doing out there? I was going to say that. Yeah. Welcome to the Brand Meet the Filmmaker panel. So I'm going to read something to you real quick. Latinos have quickly become the largest segment of moviegoers in the country. Behind that audience lies talent that is quickly trying to find ways to get noticed, get funded, and attain greater opportunities, whether through music, videos, contests, social media campaigns. The opportunity of recruiting filmmaking talent to a brand or collaborate with agencies has never been more timely. Yet there's still more work to be done in getting independent filmmakers to a corporation's radar. So my name is Umberto. I'm from Latino-Review.com. So I know that this is a subject I'm very passionate about. I deal with this almost every day. We deal with the multicultural side, the non-multicultural side, the general market. So, in the last 2 years, especially when Latinos started going to more horror movies like Guillermo's Mama and The Purge and even The Fast and Furious, the studios and independent companies have started paying attention to this very, very strong segment of the movie-going audience. And it's been afforded more opportunities not only for us as filmmakers, also as a website, but for brands in general. So let's meet our panel. Dan, you like to introduce yourself? Excuse me, David. Sorry.
I'm David. I'm the CEO of Cinely, which is a community of about 5,000 production companies and filmmakers. And we specialize in producing short-form content for brands. And we have a 60-second reel, and this shows a couple social media videos that we've done on Instagram and Vine. Guys can see it. Commercial music video.
Imaginamos ir a auga e percorrer lugares máxicos. Echamos os ollos e entregámonos ao sentir dos instrumentos e bulir das notas.
These are all clients, right?
Los verdes pasar desde atrás del conquistador. Mi cuerpo no te recogerá. Serás una negra.
So what else does the company do exactly? Outside of so it connects brands with filmmakers, and what else?
Yeah, that's part of it. Another part is general staffing, both for filmmakers. It started as a network for filmmakers. So if someone's doing a feature in New York and they're looking for a cinematographer there, they can use the site to find cinematographers to work on their projects. And so that was actually the original intent of the company, is to build a network for production companies and filmmakers. And so we still do the staffing. If a company says we need a motion designer for a project we're working on, we still do that. And the same for filmmakers. If they're looking to connect and collaborate with other filmmakers, they can do that. And then this is the component that relates to brands directly, that these filmmakers and production companies will bid on the projects and submit their proposals to create content for the brands. Or nonprofits or music videos. But, yeah, cool.
Well, my name is Daniel Salcedo. I'm based in New York. I started, when I first came to New York, I started working as an agency producer. So I kind of like learned from the devil a little bit in my early career. And I produce a lot of 30-second spots from the advertising agency side for different brands and different clients. And well, 3 years ago, I decided to jump and start my own company, and I'm 100% focused right now on original content. I no longer do strictly 30-second spots. I'm more into branded content. I work with networks, I work with brands, I work with magazines, and basically what I do is I produce content on different variations from lifestyle, music, original shows, things like that.
Carlos?
Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. And yeah, just to tell you briefly about me, my name is Carlos Gutierrez. I have my own production company. It's not really anything else except a portfolio of my work called No Parachute Films. But I am a commercial director, and I'm represented in general market and Hispanic market here in Miami and general market in LA. So when people ask me where I live, I say I live on a plane, because it's like literally that's you follow where the jobs are. And but in addition to that, and more pertinent to this panel, is that I do a lot of content that I started doing back when I lived in New York. So I've done a lot of short films for HBO, for Showtime, and the most recent thing we did, which was really nice because the executive producer of the project got us a lot of press, which was called the Real Miami Project. And so he got a series of filmmakers together to shoot one short film about each neighborhood in Miami. And so his idea is to blow out that idea and make it kind of like national, possibly worldwide. And so we did the film for Bacardi and SLS Hotels. So that's sort of an interesting, most recent thing that I've done to talk about, because it's a short film, it's a narrative. I write and direct as well, so it pertains to that, but always knowing that kind of the brand was, I don't want to say looking over our shoulder, but that, we had to be aware of that. We had to know the brand identity, but at the same time, SLS and Bacardi, being the brands that they are, were very comfortable to let us do whatever we wanted. So that's kind of just in a nutshell what I do.
Cool. Michael?
My name is Michael Diaz, and I have a production company called Heights Entertainment. I started actually at the New York International Latino Film Festival. I had a comedy called The Story of Juan Bago. And then from there, I've produced short films. I started a sketch group called Room 28 a couple years afterwards. I'm implementing short sketches and live sketches. After that, about a couple years ago, we started a parody group called Juan Bago No, which we did Pan Con Queso, Domina Heights. And those videos actually got on television. So we've been on Mundos, MTV3, Music Choice. And with that, we've had a lot of press and attention from brands for the simple fact that there was material coming from Washington Heights. There's material that representing Latinos that brands are looking for. Recently we did, with the whole team, the production company, we worked on a commercial with Mundos and Jackson Hewitt. So it was online and on television vignettes with Latin characters describing their situations filing taxes. So my experience has been a lot of web stuff. Our second video that we did, we had Pepsi that was behind it as far as marketing wise. So I've had experience of working with brands and integrating the market that we touch to work with the brands.
Cool. So safe to say, many of you guys are filmmakers. Curiosity's sake, I'm pretty sure a lot of filmmakers in our audience as well. What was the breakthrough short, or from what I know, a lot of guys who spec commercials or short films, what was the breakthrough, either short or spec commercial, if you did any, that got you noticed by a brand and got you your first gig? Because I think that's, let's see, yeah, most of you, yeah. I'm wanting to see which one of you guys got it popping.
Well, in my case, I have to say, when I started my company, I got a lead from a network that they were looking for a travel show.
Right.
And we were trying to basically come up with a concept that is not, all the same travel shows and they go and, things like that. So we kind of like, first of all, we tried to look for a talent that it was not 100% well known, but we know it has potential to be on TV and also online. And also they could be commercial in terms of brands as well. So, and then after that, we also came up with a concept that it was all shot documentary style, that it was not, the typical travel show with a magazine with a microphone like this, like, hey, how are you? The things like that. It was very documentary and very like that. And we shot a reel, and that's how I got picked up. And I've been working for Turner for the last 3 years.
That's awesome. Carlos? Carlos, I think you had a short, was it Lechon, I think, back in the day?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like it all happened at the same time. I did a number of shorts while living in New York. One was for HBO, was the grand prize winner of the HBO New York Latino Film Festival, which was great because I got to work with the festival director and also HBO to sort of come up with how we were going to do the film.
Right.
But more along the lines more of branded content, I had actually done a short film called Sleight of Hand that we shot entirely in New York in the Embassy Suites Hotel, which sounds kind of like Embassy Suites, really. Okay. But it was such a beautiful hotel and they allowed us to do whatever we wanted there, that when they saw the final product, they were like, we're going to put this on our website. You know, so for them, it was sort of the first kind of inkling of like, this was like 6-7 years ago, what did they say? So like, you know, this was when brands weren't quite, you know, there had been BMW films, but like, you know, Embassy Suites is not who you think of as doing branded content.
Correct.
But the fact that we had done it for them showcased the hotel in such a great way, they were happy to put it on the site and give us some kind of money for it.
And Mike, what about you? Was Pepsi your first experience with branded content? Or
Yeah, I think that it was the Pepsi, but also I think that the whole Juan Bago and No brand that we had with the music and implementing doing the parodies, we were able to work with Brisk, and then also Pepsi was interested in the personalities and the whole storyline to send us to the Latin billboards. So I think that brand was something that really touched the nerve of people's interest, and also Brisk, because it was a thing that really is solid. The personalities already knew the storylines behind the characters. So I think it was around that time with the Pepsi one where not even before our video was even completely shot, they were interested behind the whole movement with the Juan Bago No.
Okay, cool.
And David, you never done any film, or how did you?
No, I went to USC Film School. I did a lot of film there. But this wasn't so much me. All the stuff on there, I didn't do any of that stuff. And I'm not a good filmmaker by any stretch of the imagination. But I guess for Cinely, the first one that we got that was more mainstream was we pitched a 10-video social media campaign to Logitech, to their ad agency. And this was after pitching hundreds, if not thousands of times. And everyone said no, and they said yes. And we did a good job, and we got some more work through them. So that was the first one, that mainstream stuff.
Okay. So, gentlemen, where do you see the future in the multicultural space of branded content going? Is it growing? Have you got more opportunities on the way? More competition? What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. I think that there's going to be an increase in interactivity between the consumers creating stuff for the brands. So I think at a high level, you'll still have ad agencies which determine the general direction of brands. But within that voice and that message, I think you'll have a lot of amateur video creators that either are on Vine or Instagram or Facebook or whatever.
So user-generated, basically.
Yeah,
Okay.
but very directional, so that it's sort of incentivized to echo the overall company's message and what their ad agency wants their message to be. I mean, this isn't just like me going somewhere and taking a video. It would be curated content, and that's just one example. But I think I see the ad level quality, the ad level content being pretty similar. But I think in terms of the user-generated content and the interactive aspect of creating content to support the brand, I see that being much more engaging in the future and increasing. So that's the main thing I see.
I see that the future is amazing. I see a lot of opportunities, especially in the last couple of years, even coming directly from brands. I'm going to give an answer with an example of a recent job that I just did for Honey Bunches of Oat. I don't know if you're familiar with the recent campaign that they launched. They have an app that they're launching right now with a partnership with Domino Saints, with a band. New York, from Miami, I'm sorry. And basically what they did is they created this app where they put in content on demand on their app, and the way that you access the content is that you go with your phone and you point the cereal box and through in a barcode, and then you're able to access that content. So the beauty of this is that you will say, well, it's a commercial, you know, it's at the end of the day you're promoting Honey Bunches of Oat. Yes and no. Honey Bunches of Oat is using the cereal box and the app as a distribution platform for content. One of the things that they told me to do it was not to put any logos or any branding directly with Honey Bunches of Oat on any of the content that we are producing. So that tells you that it's actually very, very smart, because they're using the brand platform to distribute content that is relevant for their target, but it's not promoting 100% Honey Bunches of Oat on the content.
Yeah, I mean, just using outside examples, but you know, it's what's interesting is you have a lot of celebrities on the Hollywood side lending their names, especially now, to web series, products, what have you. I mean, one of the most recent ones I brought up in a meeting because we're trying to pitch something similar was that Emmy Rossum from Shameless, who's Phantom of the Opera, I think is the only other thing she did. Anyway, she was in a web series for Toshiba Intel, where it was like she was completely trapped in a room. I think the only way she could get out was by using, obviously. But you know, as bad as that idea might sound, just verbally pitching it, it actually was pretty engaging. You know, I'm a pretty hard critic. I watch these things pretty incessantly. And so I think the world is becoming where, yeah, that kind of idea would happen on TV 10 years ago, but now brands are aware of it and are trying to put their best, you know, money behind it. So you have a lot of celebrities who aren't working, which is, you know, surprising. There's actually a lot of talent out there who want to be working. They're like, whatever, if it's a good idea, they don't care if it's on TV, web, whatever. So I think if you can somehow, if you have some actor friends or whatever, and they have some bit of a name, you can attach them to a project you're working on. Don't think like it's a movie and you'll never make the money for it. Like literally, they will take that package and go, great, let's find a brand. And remember, all the brands are already kind of in cahoots with all the studios anyway. So you don't really necessarily have to find the brand. They would have brands asking them for it.
Okay.
So.
A question. Does that mean that you have to pitch? Is it similar to like a film pitch? Do you find yourself having to get the talent along with your concept, and then you pitch to a brand in order to get the client?
I mean, in my case, I'm pitching a company right now with a web deck. I have 5 ideas in there that are all web series based in different forms. They're looking for things that are basically feature films, but they can be broken out into a lot of segments. And it does help if you have talent. Even if they're just a friend of yours, or if you know for a fact that you can call them up and be like, hey. And again, I'm talking talent that a lot of people maybe don't know by name,
Right.
but they've been on big shows, they've been on, you know.
So basically, commercials are getting like on the feature side where you have talent attachment.
Yeah.
On the commercial side. Wow, I had no idea about that. That's
No, and
crazy.
also normally the clients, I mean, they're in marketing.
Right.
Clearly they don't have time to look for the talent, look for the producer,
true.
the filmmakers to build the whole thing. I mean, and if you make their job easier.
I mean, I'll give you an example. A friend of mine works on the State Farm account for
Right.
Hispanic, and Carlos Ponce is the like guy, and I think Sofia Vergara is too. But let's say if you had a great idea, and you run into this Carlos Ponce on the street here.
That's the one that does the discount double check. Is that State Farm?
That is State Farm, but
Because
the
Adrian
Hispanic
Martinez
is
is
totally.
all over that.
Yeah, no, but the Hispanic is a different one. They
Okay.
change it. Carlos Ponce is like, you know, he's playing himself in the thing. But you never know. I mean, it's those kind of things that like he's an actor that maybe can't, you know, get you $2 million to do a feature film,
Right.
but you know.
But it's good for a
But
commercial.
believe me, State Farm pays them a lot of money to do
So it's
this.
packaging's happening basically.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Michael, what about you?
Well, just based on my experience, you're watching now, you're having Vine paying these kids that are having a large following, and they're just doing subtle sketches. And it's very subtle, it's not in your face, and they're revining to their millions of followers. Also, brands don't want to be in your face now. People know that people don't have time for commercials. So they're working with content that people can see, that potentially can go viral, and that can catch people's attention because people's attention span are not there. So they're working with lower end as far as not bigger budget production companies, but things that can get content, that can get people to talk about it, to say, oh, I'm gonna put it on my Facebook, really emphasize on the social media. It's very important that you have the opportunity that I'm getting now is I'm getting an opportunity to really do sketches, do funny content, and then have the brand behind it, but at the same time have an opportunity with the push to be viral. That helps me out, because then if I have a film and then I already have thousands of followers based on that, and that gives the credibility as well. So now the audience is not, the DVR, they don't want to see it, that you watch stuff on online and you don't want to watch commercials. So commercials have to be more, they have to be smarter to kind of sneak in and like, oh my God, that made me fun. You know, that made me laugh, and there was a brand behind it.
Wow. All right. I'm gonna ask one more question, then we'll open it up for questions from the audience. What advice would you give, like filmmakers, Carlos, for example, you said you were trying to pitch a feature and stuff, and then you took, you know, a side gig doing commercials, which pays your rent, beats, I guess, waiting tables, but, no, so what advice would you have for filmmakers looking, like, to increase their income and get into branded content or commercials to make a good living?
I mean, I think Michael has it down that he's got a style, you know, like it's,
Style.
he's got a brand already, if you know, allow me to say that. But I mean, it's, you know, it doesn't matter the cost of the way you're doing things. You know, it
Right.
used to be that you know, short film cost $20,000, and that got you something else. But I think because of the advent of all these cameras that are so inexpensive, even the iPhones, if you can develop a brand of a character that people are just following all the time, whether the character is yourself or some version of that. I mean, locally here, there's a guy, I just thought of this right now when you were talking, there's a guy who created a thing called Pepe Billete. And it's like this puppet, right? And it sounds stupid as hell, but it's actually really funny. And it's this guy who just criticizes everything. And this guy's gotten so popular with this puppet that the puppet is now sponsored by the Miami Heat, has his own blog, article in a local paper.
Okay.
I think he's attached to like 3 other brands. So I think the reason that I bring that up is because it started as a viral piece.
Right.
It's just a little character, some dude with his camera at his home shooting this guy.
So personality.
Yeah.
That's like where the MCN space is right now, the multi-channel networks. They're all driven, I mean, like Maker was sold for what, $500 million in cash like a week or so ago. So it's interesting because it's more personality driven, of course, than it is content driven. All right, so.
And I think
yeah.
you also have to bring quality.
Quality,
You
of
have to
course.
make a difference. You know, like at the end of the day, you know, I mean, as you guys were saying, I mean, if you're putting your work out there and it's in YouTube and you're showing your work to, you know, as many people as you show your work, and you know you're making a difference in some way, I mean, you gotta get attraction.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of keep hustling. You know, you have to keep trying.
Interesting.
What's your, so how does that work? How does that affect the filmmakers, but how does that make your business grow? Like, I don't.
So we have like an agency model that if we do a project, we'll take 15%. It's standard, but it depends on the project. So the filmmaker will give, the production company will give their rate, and we'll just take 15% on top of that. So there's.
So whatever I quote you on, you take 15% of if I.
No, 15% above that.
Above.
So if your rate is 10,000, the cost of the brand is 11,500%.
So your fees included in the cost of the rate.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from the audience?
What's like the worst where you feel like you're being stifled by the brand saying, oh, you can't shoot this or you can't shoot that or you have to put this in?
That's interesting. Any limitations, basically?
Those are war stories.
Where's that crowd?
I know,
Do share.
Yeah.
I gotta think about that one. I mean, this is not really anything negative about a brand specifically, but the first time I ever had like what would be equivalent to like a studio meeting was I was lucky enough to be offered by Showtime to do a short film, really long short films, 25 minutes. That was their mandate. So that was sort of like going to what you're saying. It's like I didn't really want to do 25. I was like, that's almost basically doing a feature. But what was interesting is we had to go and pitch. My producer and I pitched 3 stories to the entire board of Showtime, which was like the executive producer of Dexter, Tutors, all these like mega shows, and pitching a short film. It was kind of like I had no idea like you know, the parameters were it had to show during Hispanic Heritage Month and it had to be 25 minutes, go. That was it, you know. But they were actually really great. I mean, Showtime was, you know, they were trying to really make a name for themselves as they have. So.
I mean, obviously, when you're working with yourself with characters and you know what your characters are true to, sometimes brands want to kind of balance it out and they're going to want to have something there. So as an artist, as a filmmaker, you feel you have to be true to it. There are times where you kind of have to make that decision and the brand sees it a certain way that you have that challenge. And that's where the true artist and the filmmaker is like, I don't know if that's what that character would do, but the brand sees it in another way, obviously, because their mission is in there. So I think across the board, you're going to deal with that. You're going to have a situation where it's not like what you submit is like, okay, good, let's go. It's going to be that battle. And I think that it really depends on how true you are to who your character is, that you make that decision. So I think all across the board, I think we will have that same situation. I've dealt with it, but it's a thing where you have to take a step back and know, like, all right, if I can work my skills to write it a certain way, I'm gonna have that audience, and then later on I can work and tweak more there. So, but again, it's when you're dealing with that, you're dealing with arts and you're dealing with brand, you're gonna have that situation.
No, and you need to have a balance too. I think at the end of the day, don't always say yes to them, because they're not expecting you to say yes to everything what they're demanding, because otherwise why they're gonna hire you? They would do it themselves with a camera or something like that. So it's always good to have your criteria, and you know, if you have a point and you have something that you wanna bring to the table, like, you know, I think we should do it this other way, or things like that. I mean, all depends on the client and the project.
So it's basically a balance between art and commerce, the fine line. Okay. Ma'am, you had a question?
I'm sorry. The question was like the egg and the chicken. So what comes first, the idea or the brand, or the brand for the idea, or the content, and then the brand picks it up? So how that it works?
I don't think there's a formula. I don't know what you guys think.
I've done both.
Yeah, it all depends. I mean, sometimes I have a reel with something that ended up giving me a job for another thing. You know, it's like, in all my projects, I never follow the same process. Like, I never done exactly the same thing. So it's different. There's no formula. If it wouldn't be a formula now, if somebody has a formula, let me know. I will work for you.
I mean, in my case, I just remembered I did it was a web series for Power Bar, which is owned by Nestle. So take the silver lining in there. But you know, Power Bar, being its own brand to a degree, had a really cool idea with one of their agencies. They have, you know, brands like that have like 6 agencies that are constantly doing projects for them. But the smaller one, who was more risk-taking, actually had an idea, which was to do a younger version of Iconoclast, which was that Sundance Channel show that would pair up like 2 people, like, I don't remember, you know, Quentin Tarantino and Fiona Apple or something. But they wanted to do it for like young, basically musicians who were young and young athletes, and put them together. And so we did like 4 of those, and so Power Bar paid for it, and they were just, I mean, they were on set with us, but I don't think one time ever said anything about like, don't let them talk about that, don't let, you know, to a degree, obviously. You know, they knew that the context was that they wanted, you know, 5 2-minute webisodes about these conversations and how to make those conversations engaging. But, you know, it's strange, the world right now, because everything has a parent company, pretty much, if you look down the line. So you have to be a little bit aware of it, but as a filmmaker, you honestly, if they're hiring you to do comedy, you can't censor yourself before you walk into the room. Let them censor you. That's the overriding message, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you a question for David, because the biz model is very interesting. Do you find yourself trying to pitch advertisers, and do you screen the talent that goes into your site? Because basically anybody can register.
Yeah.
You're kind of vouching for all these filmmakers,
Right.
and talent. Some could be good, some could be bad. How do you? What is that a delicate balance? Because you're co-signing all these people, and then you're trying to pitch business. What is that? Is that the chicken or the egg?
So 2 questions there. The first one is like, how do we vet talent? So we have like a very aggressive recruiting process. And so we invite people, or people submit their portfolios, and based upon watching it, we'll let them in or not. So it's not open registration. People actually have to be vetted before they can get in. So that's the first thing. The second part is, based upon the brand or nonprofit or whatever we're doing, we'll like suggest proposals or filmmakers based upon what they're looking for. So let's say we have 6,000 filmmakers in 100 countries, and someone in London is looking to shoot something that's part animation, part live action in London. You know, we'll just target those production companies and filmmakers that are, you know, around that region. So it's like the first part is the registration, and then the second part is actually pitching to the brand based upon the filmmakers and production companies and proposals and budget that they're interested in seeing, that we think we can sell to them, that would benefit them.
Okay. John, you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask how each of you balances the revenue projects with passion projects and things you really want to do that probably aren't going to, you know, they might move your brand forward, but they're not going to pay, at least immediately. And you guys, you know, work on concurrently? Do you work on one and then the other? How do you deal with that?
Good questions.
I mean, I think it goes back to what you're saying, Umberto, that it's like you got to know your personality. So you have to know what are your release valves, as I call them. You know, for me, it's writing. I've always been a writer since I was 12 years old and scaring my mom with strange short stories. But you know, it's about knowing what makes you happy, as stupid and simple as that sounds. Because, for example, in my life, I'll do, like, January for me was nuts. I literally, it was 4 campaigns in a month, and I thought I was going to lose my mind. So, I mean, for me, the release valve is doing writing, because my ultimate goal is to be a writer-director for features. So, you know, for me, I think that's the way to balance
it. For me, it's about manage your profit and your time, both things. One, in terms of your time, one thing that I do that some of my clients, sometimes they don't know that I do this, but every time when they're paying me to produce something, let's say we ended up in the studio at 5, 6 p.m., I always have an arrangement with my crew on things, and I take advantage of that day and that I already have a crew there, and I shoot something that is beneficial for me in some other way. Like, I don't know, I'm proposing a new show for another client or things like that. I just take advantage of that day because you already have a crew there, you have your people and everything and things like that. And the other thing is with the money that you're making. I mean, I mean, we wouldn't be artists or filmmakers or anything like that if we would only take all the profits from the brands and we just say, hey, you know, let's go and have a party and be drunk or something like that. I mean, no, I will definitely, you have to invest in your own project. So it's about, as I said, it's about managing your time and managing the money that you're making.
Yeah, I agree with both of them. I think it's a thing where you do have to have the time management, and especially you know you're going to have priorities. I mean, your passion project, unless you have a deadline, you have to submit at a festival, or you have to submit something that's viral that has to catch on. You're definitely going to know that the passion one is something that you're going to be up super late to take care of that. But in the meantime, you have to make sure your clients are happy so you can keep working. And the other thing too, obviously, passion one, you can stay up to like burning the midnight oil, right? But with what you have client-wise, it's like you have to serve that, you have to do it right. So I think it's definitely the time management, not burning out as well. I mean, because sometimes you might get burned out with the deadlines and all the behind-the-scenes stuff for the client, while your passion one keeps you because of your passion. So I think, like, combine what they're saying, you have to balance things out, and you have to have an even keel as far as perspective to make sure that by the time you work on your passion one, you're not burned out. You're like, damn, you know, this is. I'm tired, you know, like I'm just tired, you know, so I think that's the key.
I would say that for us, we actually don't have the limitation of time and location because we have so many filmmakers and production companies that basically anything anyone asks, we can do. So the ultimate question for us is, will this piece help sell the product or the brand? And we'll do it at cost because right now, I mean, our biggest challenge is companies and brands knowing about us because we're so new that if we can do something, we'll do a small margin or something, some project that we know will help us to sell to other companies in a similar industry or something, we'll do that. And at the end of the day, it's basically, can we use this piece of work in our portfolio to show that we're helping the brand sell their product and sell their brand?
Okay, good. Gentleman in the back, you had a question?
Yeah. Do you guys see a trend toward brands producing I guess, with filmmakers, a feature film? And the only thing I can think of right now off the top of my head would be like Cybergeddon, which was produced by Symantec and on Yahoo. Do you see a trend toward that in the future? You know, make the panels. That was my question.
Interesting.
Mac and me with McDonald's.
I mean, if you think about it, with brands doing that, they're understanding there's different mediums of actually pushing the product. So you say theater, and then you say it's online, but then you're also talking about, for example, like films that are coming out there online, they're on social media. So if they can aggregate the money that they're investing and pushing the product in all mediums and social media, I don't see why not, because that means their product or their film that they're involved is going to be out there. So I definitely see that as a possibility of moving forward, because it's not like before. Before you just see a TV commercial and you just see the film and it's like, okay, fine. But now with everything, it has to be online, it has to be in different platforms. Why not? Like if film is really good quality film and you're gonna have it everywhere, at the end of the day, the brand is winning.
And I think there's like, I would say there's like two types of different ways how a brand could help a film. One, probably, so what you're suggesting is maybe like brands getting involved from the beginning, maybe when you start a film or something like that. I mean, there's integrations on the script and things like that you can manage. But also, you know, when you have your film ready, there's tons of brands looking for, you know, sponsor screenings, like bring your film to a film festival or things like that. I mean, so it's all, I think it's different on each case, but I definitely see film as a important category for brands looking to be there. Actually, recently, I think it was Mountain Dew. I think that they partnered with Robert Rodriguez with the new network, and they're investing some money and they're looking for filmmakers. I mean, there's tons of opportunities right now.
You have a question, sir?
Gentleman before kind of stole my thunder a bit, but I'll rephrase it. And Juan, Mr. Bog over here, kind of tested a little bit. Question was, what are your thoughts on the new mobile platforms like smart TV, mobile, and web, and like in which films are being distributed? So my question was like, what would be the brand's reaction towards that? But I guess now I can kind of reformat the question, like when you're actually creating these films, or are you thinking like how would they go viral within these mediums?
No, because I think usually at this point, brands are coming to you. If they're coming to you with the idea, they already know what the platform's going to be. So in the case of a web series, you're not going to shoot it or construct it in the same way as you do a feature film. What I mean by that is it's actually web series by and large are done more in the style of television. What I mean by that is that television is usually primarily in close-ups, whereas feature films traditionally are obviously a lot of wide shots, you know, mixed with close-ups. So the big thing I've gotten told is, you know, even in shooting narrative or semi-narrative pieces for brands, is they're like, yeah, I like that shot, but we need the close-up. So a lot of it is they want to see the close-ups of the actors, obviously close-ups of their own brand. And not to say that they're trying to put their thumbprint on, I think it's just because right now the screen is just generally smaller, so that, you know, it's going to be done more in the CSI Miami style than it is like, I don't know, Lawrence of Arabia style, where it's, you know, super wide, you know.
Well, the other thing too we gotta look at is how we're watching television too now, right? So people are watching Breaking Bad and they're not going to work, right? Because they're like watching all the episodes, right? So, you see it through the joke. So yeah. girl, I can't see you this weekend, you're freaking bad. You understand, right? It used to be video games, but now it's binging. The binging is the thing, right? So brands are understanding too. Like, I had a webisode series that I released, and instead of releasing it every week, I said, nah, here you go, 7 episodes, boom. So I think also with brands, we definitely have to understand with the brands and the audience, what's the audience going to be, the experience, you know? A brand doesn't want to have something that they invest to see 6 episodes and then already only watch the first episode, right? So it also kind of challenges our creativity and the way we write and how we engage and the breaking points to make sure that when you have it on the mobile, that you can watch it on mobile on your channel with the headphones and you can watch it and then the brand subtly has their product or whatever it is involved in there. So when you're doing something that's for television and you have a brand, it's totally different from having a mobile. People's attention span is everything you're getting distracted. And also people are binging. So they will watch a product or they'll watch a show, but they're gonna watch it all consecutively. Oh no, I gotta watch it, you know? So I think that's kind of where you have the mobile aspect of it, is in who's the audience watching the mobile and how am I going to make sure I catch the attention span as long as possible.